John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Series testing, successful hunting. I've got another cool broadhead test for you today. One that I've tested a few times before, but now I'm going to be testing it using all of my 2022 protocol, and that is the SEVR 2.0. Now, if you've watched my channel much, you know that I have quite a few videos testing this. I've always been really impressed with the durability, especially the SEVR 1.5, but also the SEVR 2.0, and I've taken a number of animals with it, and it's always performed really well. I've taken a few deer, a few hogs, a few turkeys with it, but now I'm going to be testing it using my 2022 protocol, and they've also made some modifications to it in 2021, so this will be the first time that I test it with these new modifications. And the modifications give it a little more durability in the tip, as well as supposedly a little more sharpness in the blades, but we'll see how that works out. So I'll be using all of my protocol for 2022 with my Bowtech CP28 set at 72 pounds and some shots with the Bowtech SR6, and then I'm using Bishop FOC King arrows for most of the shooting, but the really hard impact shots will be with the Bishop Archery Fad Eliminator because they're just so super tough. So let's zoom on in here and check out this SEVR 2.0 and then put it to the test. Here's a good look at the 2.0. This is the 125 grain model, and you've got, for materials, you've got a solid titanium one-piece ferrule here, and then the blades are 420 stainless steel. They're 0.032 inches thick, and the cutting diameter in the open position is 2 inches. And the cutting diameter of this chisel tip is, by my measurements, 0.34 inches. Now, I do want to draw attention to this tip because in 2021, they changed the tip of the SEVR 2.0, making it a bit more stout and more durable. It's more similar to the design of the 1.5, which will make it more durable on a hard impact or on an angled shot. And then they've apparently also sharpened the blades in a different way, so they're supposed to be sharper than they were before. We'll test that and see. Now, the way it works is on impact, like any Gator broadhead here, any Gator style mechanical, pressure is put on these little wing butts here. They're not sharpened, and that forces the blades to open. And you can see that O-ring is holding the blades in place. And at the base of every blade is a little divot, and that's so the O-ring is not cut right away by pushing some pressure in your quiver on that O-ring with the blade. The O-rings are really nice. They're very thin, but they're silicone, so you don't have to worry about them dry rotting or freezing or anything like that. So when they penetrate a medium like that, they're slid back. And then let me show it to you in the open position. Okay, here it is in the open position. So the O-ring either slides off like it did here, or it gets cut through. There's those little divots that I was talking about where the O-ring goes. And then what's cool about the SEVR is the blades lock in the open position. When you push them open like that, you can feel a little boom, like where they lock. They're not considered barbed because you can pull them back this way, but they are locked like this. They have a little mechanism that they're interlocked right there. And now that does a few cool things. One, it allows them to maintain this size cut. Every other like slip cam design, I think every other mechanical, with the exception of the afflictor, the blades don't lock like that. So that's a good advantage. They're not just going to kind of shrink down in their cut as they pass through an animal. Another thing is that allows them to pivot. And so that's their motto is straight through it. A lot of times with a wide two-blade head, you can get a deflection within an animal, and it'll hit a rib or something, and the broadhead can deflect, and it can work for you if it deflects and goes right into the heart, okay? Or it can work against you if it deflects and goes into the guts or something, and that has certainly happened. And so this, if there's a hard impact on this side, well then the blade is going to close back there, and you're getting a little bit of extra cut here. You're not getting the cut of that blade, but you're getting a little bit extra cut here, and then as soon as there's pressure applied, it swings back. The swing is very fast and really sensitive. So it's going to go right back into place after it passes through that bone. That's really a nice thing. Then there's another added feature of this locking, and I don't know if you can make this out, but this right here at the base is where the two blades intersect. And they're lined up to where one is going to slide over the other. And in a really hard impact, like when I shoot it through steel plate or the MDF, something like that, as there's a lot of pressure on the blades usually don't break, because what happens is they slide over one another in this little mechanism, and that's like a really great way to put a brake on them and give them just a little bit of give to keep them from breaking. And that's why typically the blades on the SEVRs have been the most durable of any mechanical I've ever tested, because they have that extra shock absorbing, force reducing thing right there. Now when that happens, they slide over one another. They can be hard to pull apart. You got to use pliers, okay, and like pry them apart to get them back off. So once they're in the open position, if you want to close it, they're a lot easier than most people realize to close. I like to just close one of the blades like this, and then just with my thumbnail, I push up on one of them right there, and then just slide it closed right there. So as it's opening, they open like this, and then they lock open. Okay, so they're in that open position, and then just close it right there, and this little extra wing butt right there, you just press it up and the other one slides under it, and then there it is in the closed position. Now they come with a little red plastic wedge type tool that you can use as well, and that works, but you know, I do just as good. It's a lot faster to use my hands like that. So that's the Broadhead there. Oh, one thing I want to note too is you see this hole right here in the center, and they come with a little set screw that if you want, you can screw in that set screw and then use it for target practice. And the blades are not exposed at all in the target practice. You don't need the O-ring, you just have that screw in there, and they'll shoot, I mean, just like a field point. You may want to sharpen up that chisel tip there a bit more before you go hunting with it, and then make sure when you're hunting you unscrew and take out that little set screw, or they're not going to open on an animal there. So that's kind of a nice extra feature. So I'm really eager to put this head to the test and see how it performs. .225. It penetrated 6 inches. .225. It penetrated through 52 layers. It opened 1 3/4 inches initially, and then by the back of the box, it opened to 2 1/4 inches. It's in perfect condition after going through the MDF 3 times. And then after 2 more shots through the steel plate, the tip and the blades held up very well. There's a little slight bit of nicking on each of those, but then one of the blades bent just a little bit. You can see that bend in the left blade. And then here's another view of the head with the holes that it made in the steel plate. So here's the 2.0 after going through the MDF 3 times, and then the steel plate 2 times, and then embedding into the concrete. I mean, I was really impressed that it embedded so deeply into that concrete. It took me a long time to get it out. I say that a lot, but I think this was the most difficult job I had of getting it out. I measured the depth of the penetration in the concrete, and it was just over 5/8 of an inch. So really impressive penetration. They've modified this the tip of the 2.0, I believe, to make it more stout and more durable like the 1.5 is. There's a little bit of a bend there, but honestly, I think that could have come from me getting it out. I mean, I had to use a chisel and a hammer and a screwdriver pounding away, and I try to not put any pressure on the tip as I'm doing it, but it's next to impossible to do that. So man, this head held together really well through all of those tests. It's, you know, it's not quite as durable as the 1.5 because it has a wider cut like that, and that's where you see a little bit of the bend in the blade that came from the steel plate. But man, it's still, the SEVRs are just in a class by themselves in this kind of durability. So what did you think of the 2.0? Man, it did really well, right? I mean, there really wasn't much of a weakness to it. It actually got the highest combined score of any Broadhead that I've tested so far in 2022. It nudged out the previous highest score of the SEVR 1.5 just by a little bit because it got the extra reward of having a wider cut. So for, you know, like whitetail or smaller, this is really hard to beat. I think the SEVR 1.5 is better for a larger animal because you're going to get better penetration and a bit more durability. But man, these SEVR heads are just, they're really in a class by themselves when it comes to mechanicals. I know there can be some drawbacks. You know, having an O-ring can be a pain at times. Sometimes, you know, if they're open and they hit a rib as they're exiting and one of the blades kind of closes up and then it exits, you might have a little bit of a smaller hole. That happens on occasion. But for durability, for flight, for penetration, I mean, all the different things that I test here, they really are in a class by themselves. And because of their direct-to-consumer pricing, they're really not very pricey either. And then with my discount code of LUSK5, you can save even more money on top of that. But these heads are really something worth checking out. Great job, SEVR. Keep up the great work.